And welcome to EFL Teacher Talk with Sean G. I am Sean Gallagher, your host for the EFL Talk show about teaching, teaching activities and school management and also job hunting. Today we'll be talking about, this is episode 3.5. This is the second part of the class intro video. We did the other one last week, so you can check out that one for part one. I'll make sure I label that correctly. And then today is week 2. So just a quick recap for last week. We're talking about, beginning your classes. When you start a class, the first 5 minutes, the first 6-7 minutes, I think is really, really important. You want to get off to a good start. You want to get kids interested in English. You want them to not be doing bad behaviors. You want them to be doing things that they should be doing in class. So last week we had a very quick rundown of all of these things that we wanted to make sure were happening in the class before we began our banter segment. So today I'll be talking about the banter segment. And of course, bantering is just when you're engaging the kids verbally with these little, just quick questions and answers, and it might not even necessarily be a question. It might be a comment that they feel that they need to respond to. So again, you're just the banter segment is just going back and forth with these really quick, kind of fun little word games with the kids. And it's a great way to begin. That's a way that I like to begin my classes. So I've made a banter checklist. Bum, ba, da, bum. Let's look at number 1. So I have 5 rules when I do banter at the beginning of my class. The first rule is I try to make it very easy. You don't want to do something that has a lot of analysis or requires a lot of thinking. So a technical way to say that is you want to choose activities that have a very low cognitive load. It means it's very easy for people to join them quickly. It's something that kids don't really have to think about so much. So anyway, so that's just number 1. I try to keep my beginning of class activities very easy with a low cognitive load, and that usually really boosts participation in my classes during the warm-up segment. So number 2, I like to keep these activities fun and or enjoyable. And I think it would really depend on how I would classify that would probably depend on the age of the students. If I had a kindergarten class, you probably want to skew more towards the fun side. If it's first grade and up, elementary, first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, and higher, rather than fun, maybe it's just something that's enjoyable. But I think fun might not be the word that I would use for that. So anyway, my second rule of banter at the beginning of class is to keep it light and something that is fun and enjoyable for the kids. Because again, you want to get them hooked into your class at the beginning of the class, and something, fun is a great way to do that. Number 3, I try to use activities that are active and or have high energy. And again, going back to what types of classes you're teaching, if it's a kindergarten class, something active might be actually physically active, where you're up and down and you're moving around in the classroom. It could be a song. A song is a great way to pull the kids in because it is active, it's high energy. It kind of ticks off all these things. I guess in my first and second grade elementary classes, if it's active, I might be active. I might be moving around the classroom, and a lot of times in my classes, I almost consider the front of the classroom to be a stage, and I do use some dramatic elements in my classroom. I might walk over to the side and pick something up off the one of the shelves or something and show it to them. So yeah, I try to keep it active in that sense. It doesn't necessarily mean that the kids are up and moving around, although it could be. It just really kind of depends. But anyway, you want to keep it kind of high energy and active because it's really hard to ignore high energy things in the classroom. It's a room. You have to pay attention. So that's a good rule to use, something high energy and active. Number 4, I extensively use the concept of emotional positioning when I'm doing banter at the beginning of class. Now, emotional positioning is a phrase coined by Scott Crow from Nut House Education in Osaka. Thank you, Scott, for putting a word around this concept. I think it's something that a lot of teachers do in class naturally, but it's great to have this certain phrase to use about it. So, what is emotional positioning? I think emotional positioning is creating situations in your classroom where the students want to communicate with you. They're almost dying to communicate with you. They're jumping up and down out of their seats to attempt to communicate with you. And then, of course, we also give them the tools in English to have them be able to do that. So you're creating a need to communicate with the teacher, I think, is basically emotional positioning. And also it might be something that might be very, you try to use things that are very natural for kids to talk about. So that's, the nuts and bolts of emotional positioning. I'll give you an example of that. I think I use a lot of humor in my classes because I'm funny. And I have these digraph visuals up on the wall. You can see this. This is actually the David Lisgo Blending a Hand inspired digraphs. And, all these pictures are up on the wall. And I might just start class and say, okay, hi, boys and girls, everybody. Hello, my name is Sean, and I am a teacher. And I'll go over and point to the teacher on the wall. I am a teacher. Good. Can you say teacher? Teacher. Okay, can you say nice teacher? I'll say nice teacher. Can you say very nice teacher? Very nice teacher. Okay, Sean is a very nice teacher. And then, at this point, some of the kids will say Sean is a very nice teacher. But at this point, in a lot of my classes, the kids don't want to say that. Ha ha. So they'll say Sean is a very bad teacher, or they might use a negative. They might say Sean is not a nice teacher. And then we're kind of having this argument back and forth, and I'll say, no, oh, yeah. I'm like, oh, yeah, okay. Yeah, Sean is not a nice teacher. Yeah, I get it. Sean is a very nice teacher. And then, they'll push back with some other comment. So that might be one way to create, that's one example of emotional positioning, because I think a lot of the kids naturally want to tease the teacher back in English. And I'm giving them the situation and the tools to do that. So that's just one example of using emotional positioning. And I guess the last thing that's on my checklist, my banter checklist, I want to be genuinely communicating with the kids. And I think this probably doesn't get enough talk in EFL circles. I think many people have this mechanical idea of English where we ask a question and the kids are supposed to say an answer. And if it's too rigid, it seems like the communication aspect of language use kind of falls to the wayside. So I think in all of my teaching, I do try to maintain an element of communication, but at my banter segment, in my opening, the communication dial is jacked up to 10, or 11. And I really want to be genuinely communicating with the kids, rather than, how are you? I'm fine, thank you, and you. I no way. I don't want anything like that, right? So, so that's just the last point in my banter checklist. I want the kids to be using genuine communication with me. So again, so I might not, worry about grammar and things like that too much. So that is my clock in the background playing a song. So that is part 2 to the warm-up segment of your class, episode 3.5. And just a quick, how long do we do that? That's a 10-minute little bit on that. So good luck, everybody teaching this week. And if you have any comments or questions on the videos, or if you have any good banter techniques that you use, I'd love to hear them on the comments section. If anybody wants this, I think at this point there aren't very many people subscribed to the channel, so if you left a comment, I would probably send it to you if you wanted it. And that's it. And everybody, so thank you for watching again. We'll try to increase the frequency of these videos, but that's all for this week. What is it? It is September 29th, Saturday, and everybody have a great week teaching, and until next episode, see you. Signing.